Welcome to the Got Invention Show. I'm your host, Brian Freed, and today we have our guest, Michelle Mazzara. She's from Luvafoodie brand, and she's going to talk to us about her great Invention brand that she created. Welcome to the show, Michelle.
Thank you, Brian. It's my pleasure.
So tell us who you are and where you're from.
Sure. My name is Michelle Mazzara. I'm the CEO and founder of Luvafoodie. I am in very cold Minneapolis, minus 27 degrees.
Well, I feel for you. I'm in New York, but it sounds like it's kind of cold over there. So,
Yeah,
but you do have some great products to keep you nice and warm and cozy, right?
we do. We have some wonderful products, and the premise of Luvafoodie, Brian, is clean eating and clean drinking. And for your listeners and viewers, if you don't know what that means their products are chemical free, no artificial flavors or artificial colors or artificial ingredients.
Well, I know during our pandemic activity going on that many people are home and they're experimenting, and food is very popular, and comfort food and all kinds of food and cooking and everything else. So I'm sure that you've been keeping busy the last
Yes.
years for sure.
Absolutely. I think people are getting creative because they have to cook more because restaurants are closed and they're trying new recipes. And we do have a lot of recipes too online. So the majority of my spices, though, can be found on Luvafoodie and Walmart and also Amazon. So we'll talk about them as we get into the show.
Absolutely. So tell me what the problem was that you kind of were noticing or that you were aware of, and then we'll go into what you actually created. So tell us how this all came about.
Sure. Well, it's about 6.5 years ago, I created Luvafoodie, and then about a year later, I pivoted the brand, and I decided I wanted to come out with a line of clean eating grilling spices. And the problem out there, Brian, is if you go and look at the ingredients of the majority of the spices you find in the grocery stores or in the club accounts, they have fillers in it, which are anti-caking agents that prevent the spice from clumping up. So I didn't want to put those chemicals in my body, and so the problem was I needed to solve it by coming out with a line of really tasty, gourmet but clean, chemical-free spices.
Very nice. So now that you had this problem and you noticed that there was kind of like this niche in the market for this type of product or these type of products, tell us what you came up with and what you have.
Sure. Well, I started with grilling spices, and I've got my number one seller. I'll show you this. It's called Garlic Lovers. I say you can put this on anything but chocolate. It's really, really good. Basically, I have a line of grilling spices. And then what happened, Brian, is 4 years ago, I was diagnosed with heart disease. And so the problem was there wasn't really any tasty gourmet salt-free spices out there. There was, the typical ones that you see, the old brand that, I'm not going to mention online, but I think you know who I'm talking about. So I said, you know what? I'm going to come out with a line of gourmet but clean tasting salt-free spices. And I want to show you this one. This is called Citrus Lovers. It's my number one selling salt-free spice. And look at that. Can you see how fresh that is?
I do. And I've gotten a chance to try them too. They're amazing and they're so fresh inside.
Yes. So I now do a lot of recipes during the month of February because February is American Heart Month. And I share my story, how I was misdiagnosed with heart disease. And I share my recipes. I just did a salt-free Valentine show, 2 shows in the last 2 weeks, showing how to use salt-free spices in delicious recipes. So I think the problem is a lot of people don't know how to cook with spices that don't have any salt in it. They think, oh, there's no flavor, but that's not true. If you use like with Citrus Lovers, Brian, I use orange juice and I use olive oil and I use lime juice. And so if you combine other ingredients with the salt-free spice, it's actually really tasty recipes.
Wow. So you've come up, that's one, and you have how many spice lines do you have right now, or how many spice products do you have?
So as you know, as an entrepreneur and a basically an innovator, you constantly come out with new items, right? So I have got about 12 or 13 that have salt in it, and then I've got 6 that are salt free. But I'm coming out with 2 new flavors next month, a smokehouse flavor and one called Chicken Lovers. Because if I had my druthers, I would be in my kitchen creating stuff every day. That's what gets me going.
Nice. So
And
I
go
tried
ahead.
a couple. I tried the garlic and herb, which
Yes,
is delicious. Like I showed it to my family and it was like, wow, it's so fresh. Like there's actually like the leaves are in there from whatever it is that you're chopping up. And then the garlic lovers and even like the cayenne or the chili, the powder.
time. Mm-hmm.
I ended up chili lime. I ended up putting that on my chips. So it was amazing. And they're so fresh. What are some of the other flavors that you have?
So garlic lovers is number one. This has got basically you mentioned it has like chopped up things. It has parsley in it, so it's dried, and the garlic is it's minced garlic. So when you use my spices and you cook them, they plump up. So if you make like a shrimp scampi or put this on potatoes, you're gonna see that they basically the dry the dry ingredients plump up and then they become really moist, like fresh garlic.
Wow.
So I've got garlic lovers, meat lovers. If you eat burgers or steaks, this is the second best selling spice, meat lovers. And then I have a seafood lovers because Luvafoodie is called Luvafoodie. Pretty much all my spices end in lovers. Here's a unique one though. This doesn't end in lovers, but do you like margaritas?
I do.
Okay. So a couple years ago, I thought, wouldn't it be fun to come out with a spice that tied into Cinco de Mayo? So I came out with Margarita Lovers. And this has, when you use this one, Brian, this has real, you might go, what's all that white stuff? This has real tequila in it.
Ooh.
But it's dried, so there's no alcohol content, but it really tastes like a margarita.
All right, that's next on my list.
Yeah, yeah.
Nice. So you have the product line of the spices. What else do you have that you've invented and created under Luvafoodie?
Okay, that's a good question. Well, let me tell you something personal about Luvafoodie. It's me, and a lot of what I create is due to circumstances in my life. Like I told you how I created the salt-free line because I have heart disease. Well, 3 years ago, my little dog named Lucy, who's a Shih Tzu, she got very ill. She was 13, and as you know, as the dogs get older, they stop eating, and they have cognitive issues, and they have various issues. So I was desperate to save her life. The vet that I had taken her to for 13 years said, "Put her down." I'm like, "No, I'm not putting her down." I found a new vet. I did some research, and I came out with Dog Lovers. That's Lucy on the tin.
And what makes your go ahead.
She turned 17
Wow.
on January 3rd.
Very nice. So what's making that so unique and special, and what do you think is doing something to Lucy to keep her going?
So this has actually you can use this. People can use it. It has basil, parsley, cinnamon, turmeric, and ginger in it. And I have a lot of friends that have dogs that use this. And the smell of the cinnamon and the ginger entices the dog to eat. So you put this on their wet or dry food. You mix it in, add a little water if you're using kibble, so the spice adheres to the kibble. Wet food is easier because it'll automatically stick. And the dogs will not eat their food without this on it. Once the dogs that love this, I have testimonials out there that say, "Michelle, we used it and now my dog won't eat without it." That's a true, I have many stories like that. Now I don't have any cats, Brian, but I figured, this is the same issues that happen to older dogs happen to cats. So I came up with Cat Lovers. And this has basil, parsley, dill, and a little bit of catnip. And if you don't know much about cats like catnip. It's kind of like if you give them too much, they go crazy. It's kind of like giving them like a high. So it's just a little bit of catnip in here, but here again, it entices their appetite. A lot of we take turmeric and we take a lot of ginger. We take a lot of these herbs ourselves. So I just had to find out the right ones for cats and the right ones for dogs. And little Lucy just celebrated Valentine's Day with me yesterday.
Very nice. 17.
17.
Very nice.
Sleeping right now, or I'd go show her everybody her, but she takes a lot of naps, but still with me.
Good. And then you have chocolate products and you have teas. So tell us quickly about those too.
Sure. So like I mentioned, I have heart disease, and people who love chocolate know that dark chocolate also has health benefits. It's kind of like dark chocolate and red wine, are if you don't drink too much red wine, obviously. But this is called Happy Heart, and this is also on my website and on Amazon. I'm going to show you what it looks like inside. So I don't know if you can see that. It says Luvafoodie, and it says Happy Heart. So this is really, really good chocolate at 60% cocoa, and it's just fantastic. In fact, I made a dessert where I melted it and put it over strawberries for Valentine's Day. But to answer your next question, remember how I was telling you Luvafoodie is about clean eating?
Yep.
It's also about clean drinking. So the same problem that was in the marketplace for spices is also out there for many teas. Not all of them, but a lot. So in June of last year, I created new all-natural instant cold brew iced tea.
Wow.
I have two flavors that are herbal. These are green teas. I'm actually drinking right now the raspberry. I drink the raspberry pretty much all day long. It's just easy to drink.
And you have the margarita powder in there too. I'm just kidding. Well, you said
well,
no. Well,
let me tell you something. I actually have on my website, I have made a couple cocktails using the iced tea. So I do have a raspberry Moscow Mule. So I have the two herbal ones, and then I have two black teas, lemon lovers and a passion fruit. And the passion fruit is really my favorite. So the passion fruit is my favorite black tea, and then kind of a tie between blood orange and raspberry for the green tea. I love them both. But what you do, I want to show you what you do, Brian, because this is really easy. So each bag, I can't wait for you to try these, because when you open the bag, there's 6 large sachets in each bag. You take one sachet, and you put it in 8 cups of cold water in like a jar or some kind of glass container, and you brew it either near the sun, or if you have a lid, you can put it outside, like on your deck. I usually just put it in a glass jar and put it near my deck inside, and you brew for 6 to 8 hours, and then you have delicious 8 cups of cold iced tea to drink. So each bag has 6 sachets, and there's a total of 48 servings per bag.
very nice.
And it is really easy. And the nice thing about it, I have a lot of friends that have kids, and they don't want their kids to drink pop, right? Because I'm so against pop. It's basically all chemicals. They use the herbal teas, and they make that, and their kids love it. And then they don't have to worry about their kids drinking a lot of caffeine, because caffeine's not good for a lot of kids.
Wow.
Well, it's not good to have too much caffeine.
Yeah. Wow. You've taken. So when did you start this? Luvafoodie?
So Luvafoodie, I launched 6.5 years ago. The tea line I just launched in June of 2020. So these are available online. So Luvafoodie, originally didn't start as a consumable brand. I don't know if you want me to go back and tell you that this how I pivoted as an entrepreneur, but originally, and this is also because it wasn't in the marketplace, I started Luvafoodie as a social website for singles who are foodies. It was a dating website.
What's the definition of a foodie?
A foodie is somebody that, shares a passion for food, and whether that be cooking, eating out, trends, trying new recipes. They talk about food. It's a big part of our lives. We're kind of consumed about if a new restaurant opens up, did you go there? What did you eat? Taking pictures, Instagram pictures, obviously has a lot of food pictures on it. So it's just kind of it's more than a hobby. I would say it's almost like a obsession, because it's part of who we are.
Right. Well, it's a necessity, that's for sure. But you've taken it to the next level. So, Michelle, you had this issue. You started to come up with your own kind of like, what did you start with? The spices was the first thing that you worked on?
First thing I came out with were all natural gourmet caramels that are no longer in the line. Because there again, there was no chemicals in the caramels, and so the shelf life was very short. But I started with caramels, then I morphed into chocolates, and then I came out with spices.
Okay. So even with the caramel depends on where you're from.
Right. Right.
What did you start making them in your kitchen? Did you find a place to be able to make them, a lab, or tell us? So you had this idea. What did you do first?
Well, I found people that could make them for me because I am a one woman show. So I do the sales, the marketing, I do pretty much everything. And so I did not rent a kitchen. I found a co-packer, or for the chocolate, I've got a couple chocolatiers that make them for me. We also do customized chocolate bars. So say, Brian, you wanted to come out with your own chocolate bar.
Mhm.
I did this for the Minnesota Vikings, and then it's just a sweet treat brought to you by Luvafoodie. You could just say to me, "I want my own chocolate bar, Michelle." You'd send me your logo, and we would create this for you. And so, but I don't make. I mean, I come up with the recipes. Like I just finalized the recipes for Smokehouse Lovers and Chicken Lovers. Send the recipe to my co-packer. They blend it for me. I taste it. If I don't like it or I feel like it needs more of this or that, then I have them remake it, reblend it, send it back, taste it again until I'm finally happy with it. Then it's good to go. And then that's the recipe. And then when you order, say you're a grocery store, you send me the order. I send it to my co-packer. My co-packer blends this fresh. You had mentioned, Brian, that the spices were really fresh. That's because they're blended at the time of the order.
Hmm. So finding this co-packer and then thinking about the shelf life of it, coming up with a name, just all these different things that you had to do. Maybe you can share some of that with us, because there's inventors and entrepreneurs that are watching and listening to you,
Mm-hmm.
and maybe they have a food invention or food idea, and they might not have even heard of what a co-packer is. So how did you find one, and how did you know to go to one?
Well, I'm a little bit, I don't want to say lucky, but my background is I spent 25 plus years working for large CPG companies, consumer products companies. And the last one I was at was Sara Lee. And I sold to big accounts. I sold to Target and Walmart. So I had the skill sets and I had the knowledge of how to create, how to do sales, knowing co-packers existed. But for everybody else that doesn't know, a lot of people start and they rent that kitchen at a food place or at a church or at some kind of public place, and they do it themselves. Um, and then as you grow, then you start to network and you start to meet other people in the industry, and you say, "Oh, where do you have your item made?" Or do you know of anyone? It's a lot about entrepreneurs and inventors. Is you have to find your little niche and your little group, and then you network and you share ideas. And that's one of the things I did. I joined some local women's cooking groups, and I help a lot of people because I do have a lot of knowledge.
What do you think that what was the point that made you want to do this instead of getting a full-time job or doing what you do, or maybe you have a mix of both? Like what was that breaking point to say, you know what, I understand you had some personal challenges and health issues, but
Mhm.
what was it that made you want to be an entrepreneur, and what was the risk that you took?
That's a great question. So I was an entrepreneur from the time I was probably 6 years old. I started painting barrettes. I would go door to door with little barrettes. And this is not the first company I started. This is the first company I started one called Bella Baskets in college. I started one Celebration Makeup. Avino Arte, I could go on, but this is the first one that's lasted. So I think you have the people like me and you, Brian, that we're entrepreneurs from the very beginning. And we're always, this is in my blood. And so I knew all these years working for other large companies and I'm good at sales, that someday I would do my own thing. Well, and what the defining moment is the company I was working for, Sarah Lee, they decided to sell off all their business units. And so we were all out of a job. And I was in my mid career, and I thought, well, if this is the defining moment. If I'm going to do it, this is the time to do it. Because I spent 25 plus years working for other people, and I kind of didn't want to do it anymore.
So you just, one moment, you just said, boom, I'm going into business. I believe that these spices are what people need, or I know that, if anything, I know that I need them because of the health issues that you had, and you were sure that other people had. What kind of research did you do?
Well, I knew that there was a gap in the marketplace. So I think one lesson for entrepreneurs and inventors, you're going to be more successful if you can find what that gap is, if you can invent something that isn't already out there, or maybe out there. I mean, I'm not saying by any means, I'm not saying Luvafoodie spices are the only chemical-free spices, because they are not. But the majority brands in the marketplace do have chemicals in. So first lesson, or first I guess advice I would give anyone listening is find something that you there's a problem, like you said in the beginning. What's the problem? How am I going to fix it? If you come up with just another Me Too item, then you really didn't invent anything.
Right. And you just went head on. It was like, I'm going to take a chance. What kind of risk was there? I mean,
There's a ton of risk. There's still a lot of risk, and I
yeah.
risked everything. I risked a social life. I risked a personal life. I risked finances. There's a huge amount of risk, and if somebody had given me a crystal ball and said, Michelle, this is what your next 6 years are going to be like, I'm not sure if I would have jumped into the ball or not.
Yeah.
It's a ton of risk.
So,
and I'm just now not feeling, I mean, and there's a lot of sleepless nights, and there's a lot of, you have to want it so bad. You have to believe in your brand so much, in yourself, that no matter what obstacles you face, you're going to keep going. And that's how I'm still here.
well, I'm sure you definitely had your trials and tribulations of going through. I'm sure, like, testing each one of the spices till it was to your perfection, because I could tell how you are. You want to make sure that what you're putting out is what you want it to be, and believe
Yes.
in that you can get behind. So
Yes.
you ended up finding this co-packer. You came up with a name. You kind of packaged it. So tell us about that, because it seems like you're just hitting all these right away, and you kind of are used to it, or you've done it before, you've been in that space. But the process of going through to get to a finished product, tell us about that.
Yeah, well, Luvafoodie, first I had the idea, and I mean, it literally came to me at 3 a.m. I was laying awake. That's when a lot of ideas come to people. But, I was like, Luvafoodie. Okay, makes sense. So everybody got behind the brand, the name right away. So I was fortunate with that. I did, in the beginning, Brian, find a team that manages my website. So I don't do that. And they do all the design. So I'll say to the head person, her name is Jennifer. Jennifer, I want to come up with citrus lover spice. Or I want to come out with dog lovers, and I want Lucy to be on it. So my team designs the graphic, and there again, I'm really picky. In the beginning, I don't like sometimes the way that they come out with a label. Like I said, I'm going to come out with a blood orange. They created this whole line for me, the iced tea, the labels, and right away I fell in love with the look. But sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'm like, no, this needs more tweaking. I don't care for, it doesn't scream. And so until I say this is the right graphic, we don't, nothing gets printed, nothing gets finalized. So you have to have an idea, you have to have a product. So I had the idea for dog lovers. Then you have to come out with the graphic, and it has to really tell your story. So I'm not there telling you what's in it. You as the consumer can read it and you get it. Then, fortunately, I have a co-packer that does both my teas and my spices. So it makes it really nice if you're an account and you want to buy both. We can ship them together. I think there's different co-packers out there. There's some co-packers that specialize in frozen food. There's some co-packers that do like ice cream. So depending upon your product, you have to do some research and say, okay, who's a co-packer in, Wisconsin that does Jello, or, I'm just making it up. But so the internet's fantastic for finding resources. So that's, the person has to, you have to dig.
Right. Got to do your research, and it seems like you just found it, and you said that you got lucky. You found somebody close to you there that you're able to work with and build your brand from and with.
Yeah, well, my team is not near me. I mean, they're and my co-packer is not near me. But I got very fortunate that my team that's built we have our own server that built Luvafoodie is still with me. I mean, they have stuck with me. They're part of there's not one thing on this that I'm showing you today that I can't say I have a great graphic designer.
Excellent.
And I have the idea, and I know, okay, I want the tin to be blue, or I want, like, I'll say, put a little margarita on the top label, and then they come out with and do it. So, and you have to find people you trust.
So tell us about your success so far. Where is it being sold? What kind of accounts you have? What kind of effort did you have to make to get into those type of accounts?
Everything is a building block. Everything is a stepping stone. So I started here, and I think every entrepreneur in the food space starts locally. They start in their own city. They go to the grocery stores that buy local. There's some in every state that supports your local. So I went to the name of the account is called Kowalski's, and they're very good at supporting local. And they're gourmet. I started with them, and then from there I expanded into other stores, other retailers. I got out in California with Molly Stone's, which is a very upscale store, line of grocery stores. I'm in Lowe's Foods in North and South Carolina, also privately owned. I just got on Walmart.com in September. That was a big, big, big win for me. Expansion in 2021 looks really good. My goal is to get into distributors and to get Luvafoodie to be a national brand. That is the goal that I have for this brand. And it's the goal that I hope to achieve by the end of the year.
And you're doing this on your own? Do you have distributors, sales reps, anything?
No. I do not. I'm hoping to get distributors. I'm hoping to get a couple national or one or two big distributors that see right now, Brian, pretty much all my customers are local. So they're companies that are privately owned, but the big like national customers, they only buy from distributors. So I need to find one or two distributors that have the ability to ship across the country.
And that's, I guess,
so like
page.
Yeah. So like one of my goals is, you live in New York. I want to get into Wegmans. I haven't. Have you been to Wegmans?
I have. Popular in Pennsylvania. I haven't seen them in New York, maybe upstate New York. But when I was on QVC, that was my store. I lived in Wegmans.
Yeah. So those are the kinds of stores I'm in right now, like a Wegmans that you could relate to. But I want to get into, other national, whether it be Club or Target or Walmart, and other grocery stores.
Whole Foods.
Whole Foods, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Whole Foods would be my perfect, the customers that shop at Whole Foods want chemical-free products.
Wow. So you've definitely gone through all the stages, and now you're in the real growth stages. And it seems like you're constantly coming out, like you just did the dog and cat spices. So you're constantly building and adding to your product line. Are you continuing to do that, or is it like, you know what, I'm going to stop and I'm going to just really start hitting the turf right now, trying to get bigger accounts, more accounts? What's in store and what's next for Luvafoodie?
I'm done with these two new spices coming out in March. I'm done with the spice line for now. My goal now, I feel like I have a lot of people ask me for the Smokehouse Lovers, or they ask me for a Smokehouse Rub. So if you look at the portfolio, I have something for seafood, I have something for meat, I have something for chicken now. I feel that the array of spice flavors covers everybody. I have the tea line. I'm good to go with that. I have a couple chocolates. I'm good. My goal now is distribution.
And you're doing this by yourself? You have a team?
I don't have a team. I wish I had a team.
Oh, this is your focus every day. Just
Yeah.
okay.
I want a team. I mean, I'm hoping as resources hopefully come in that I can add a small group of people to the team, to me, because it's very hard to do everything.
And where do people buy it right now? Like people who are listening or watching, do we go on your website? Do you want to where give us some direction?
Sure. Everything that I have is on luvafoodie.com, and that's luvafoodie.com. So I would say start with Luvafoodie. You can also go to Amazon. Amazon has pretty much all the spices, and they have the teas. Walmart.com, I just got on in September, so you can go to Walmart too, and they have the spices and the teas. They don't have any chocolates, but I really only have a couple chocolates. I'm really only do chocolates fourth quarter anyway. And so those three online websites would be where I would start. And then if you're in California, if you're in the Bay Area, you go to Molly Stone's. If you're in the Twin Cities, Minneapolis, St. Paul, people know where to shop. Hopefully I can say, Brian, you can go down here in New York, or you can go here in Florida. I can't say that quite yet, but that is my goal.
Excellent. And what about on social? You're pretty active, right?
Very active on social, so I would encourage anyone listening to follow us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Pinterest, YouTube. I do a lot of videos on YouTube, and also on Luvafoodie. If you go to the Luvafoodie website, there's a tab that says cooking shows, so you can see a lot of how to make a lot of really interesting recipes. Plus, there's a lot of recipes on luvafoodie.com. So if you don't know how to cook and you're wondering what to do with citrus lovers, you just go to the recipe tab and you type in citrus lovers, and all the different recipes that I created using citrus lovers will come up.
There's many inventors and entrepreneurs, innovators, people who are trying to come up or to get their food invention or ideas commercialized. It's not so easy. Like you said, we see the good stuff, we see everything in front of you, but maybe you can share some words of wisdom. Give us some advice to the people that are out there, whether it's just an idea or maybe they're kind of on the stage of getting their idea out there. Doesn't matter what it is. It could be food, product, whatever. Give us some words of wisdom from your experience.
So the first words of wisdom is you have to be extremely tenacious. You have to want it. So you have to want it more than pretty much anything. If you haven't, don't even try. Don't even attempt. It is going to change your life. It's going to change the people that you interface with every day, whether you're married, whether it's your children, whether it's your friends. It's going to consume you 100%. To get to where I am, it has consumed my entire life. So the words of wisdom, if you have that personality and you think that you can survive, and you have to have the hardest work ethic ever. I mean, if you just think you're going to go on vacation or take a weekend off or not do it, don't even attempt to become an entrepreneur or a innovator, because it just takes that much. You know, Brian, as an inventor, I mean, wouldn't you say the same thing?
Absolutely. Well, everybody looks at it in a different perspective. So you've been through the journey and you have some level of success right now. And I say some because it sounds like you have much more to go. And that's where I can feel it. And I can taste it too from the samples that you sent. It's unbelievable and amazing. And congratulations on your success and your continued success and your future success.
Thank you, Brian. I thank you for having me as a guest, and I look forward to staying in touch with you.
Absolutely. We'll keep in touch. And for those of you who have an invention idea, if you'd like to be a guest on the show, you can go to gotinvention.com. You get put on the gotinventionshow.com website, the YouTube channel, which is gotinventiontube.com. The audio files go on iTunes podcast, Google Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and DB&A, which is on Roku and Amazon Fire. So thank you very much for listening and watching, and keep on inventing.